Okay, so we'll talk about the European election results today. Labour suffered their worst results since 1918, and two BNP members got seats in the European Parliament. And UKIP came second in the country. So what do we think about the results and what it means, like wider in a wider political context?
I think if this doesn't send a message to Gordon Brown about his popularity, then there's obviously something going wrong with communication there. If you're getting the worst result in over 100 years and you're still clinging on to a career as PM, there's something very wrong with your communication channels. This is a very definite message. People don't want a Labour government in the country at the moment. I'd say this is probably just a precursor to a general election.
I think that's a bit of a simplification of the matter. Obviously, Brown himself has gone out and said that if you look at the results, the Conservatives actually haven't made that much of a gain. Like you said, UKIP is the one that's made the biggest gain. That represents a broader disenchantment with the main parties rather than with Labour in particular. Obviously, Labour has lost more. But, I mean, coming back to the Gordon Brown thing, and, you know, obviously this does put pressure on him. But the fact of the matter is, it's not as black and white as saying Labour aren't popular, get rid of Gordon Brown, that's going to fix everything. Obviously, if you get rid of Gordon Brown, that is going to bring a general election. And frankly, I don't think the Tories are ready for government anyway. And I think that the current situation that Labour finds itself in is one in which the party has to find its identity and rally behind Gordon Brown. As much as people don't like him, he is the Prime Minister and he has done good things as far as the economic crisis, certainly anyway, is concerned. The fact of the matter is, even if we did not want to have him anymore, if we brought in Alan Johnson, there would have to be another election.
At the moment, Gordon Brown staying, he's just staying to stay. It's clear that the public don't want him, his party don't really want him, and just staying because they don't want, just staying so that we don't get another election. I think these European elections show that there should be an election anyway.
It is interesting that that UKIP should make such gains for a party that was essentially a minority, a fringe party, to now come so far forward. I think that's a real indication of the way the public is shifting their thinking.
I'm not so sure because UKIP, I think, only gained one extra seat, and I don't think it's so much about these other parties doing so well as in Labour doing so badly. I mean, for example, the BNP, the reason they got two seats is not because they gained any votes from the 2004 election, but because Labour lost so much of the share, and in a proportional representational system, it allowed BNP to get seats. So I think the story of the election isn't so much UKIP or BNP, it is actually Labour doing so badly.
And a good degree of voter apathy as well. I mean, there's a lot of people didn't bother showing up. Yeah.
Well, I think it's difficult because people generally don't feel that the European Parliament does a lot for them, certainly in terms of, immediate representation.
So do you think that the move to the right in Europe and the BNP getting their first big seat does it signal a fundamental change, or is it just that people are so fed up?
I think it's people voting for the BNP. I think it's mostly a reaction to the expenses scandal. I think there's no doubt that obviously there are worrying levels of illegal immigration going into the country, but that's not really a policy that the BNP is concerned about. Let's face it, they've got other agendas than all of that. I think that people are choosing to vote for minority parties like BNP, like UKIP and all that, as a way of showing they're fed up with the way the major parties have been abusing the system, because they've all of them done a lot of good in their time, but they've been caught out with the expenses and people are cross.
I basically think we're going to get a general election in the next coming weeks or months. I think by the end of this year.
You really think that?
I think
I'd be absolutely astonished if we have a general election before 2010.
I think Gordon Brown's going to have to go, and if Gordon Brown goes, we're going to get a general election.
The fact that he's still here, in spite of all these other resignations, in spite of particularly the way Hazel Blears went about what she did.
But I think the only reason he's still here is stubbornness, and I don't see how that's going to hold out for much longer.
I must admit, I'm siding with Onyeka here. That said, I will be surprised if we get a general election within 6 months. I think he'll at least stay on for that. He might might decide to go gracefully in the end, but I think he's certainly determined to stay here for the immediate future.
I think with or without Gordon Brown, these elections have shown that Labour are in quite a lot of trouble. And we shall see with the general election.
Exactly, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it might happen in a couple of months, so all the people that didn't vote, we'll see if they vote this time.